My teaching experience last semester, well, this past fall semester at WSU was one that taxed me emotionally, physically, spiritually. It took everything I had not to walk away from school entirely last year. And I now know that teaching is something that I can never walk away from. I had students that were excited about their classes. I had students that didn't care at all. And I had some who were in the middle that were hard to reach. And I think it's those that are truly the ones that we owe it to ourselves to try and reach. The ones that need our help the most are the ones that aren't sure whether or not they're ready to learn. They're not sure whether they want to be there or whether they want to be in a trade school or just be working a job. I'm talking most about my English 011 students, the remedial students, the ones who need love, care, and understanding. They need us because the reality about the American school system is it's broken. Even in English departments, not English departments, but in English curriculum and pedagogy in public high schools in America they don't work all that well. And I found out last semester that there are students that don't know the difference truly between an adjective and a verb. They don't know how to have subject-verb agreement in their prose and in their syntax. Then some students don't even know what syntax is, and that's okay. But it's concerning because, well, the advancement of our language depends on the educations of these students. And I think it's my job and the job of my peers to ensure that the evolution of our language, the American English language, moves forward. And that's my job, And I feel blessed to move forward and be able to teach this semester. But those are just the surface difficulties of last semester. I had some personal difficulties last semester that made things, well, very difficult for me to teach. Before I get into this next part of my experience last semester, I think it's probably very important for me to say that I don't want to be sanctimonious about my experiences. I don't want to say that I did any better or experienced anything worse or try to score points with my peers or say that my trials were harder to put up with than others. But last semester, at the beginning, my very first day of work as an instructor, I found out that I was getting sued by a hospital, and I lost all of my student loans while trying to take 3 classes, and teach. So I knew from the outset last semester that the whole fall 2022 term was going to be a trial for me. It was going to be a big test to see what I could deal with mentally. And it was something that I'll be recovering from for a little while. Not to the point of not being able to perform in this upcoming semester, but it shook me. It shook me to my very core, to the point where I had to have a couple of hospital stays. It shook my personal relationships, all of them. It made my future uncertain last semester. It made people have doubts about my character, my abilities to perform basic tasks, to adapt myself socially. And I almost let it get the best of me. I had to admit that as a human being last semester, I can't be walking around without treating my problems. I can't think that I don't need help from my peers and my bosses and my instructors. I have to ask for help. And last semester I realized that when somebody takes away your livelihood, when you realize that in the beginning of a difficult situation you don't have any support financially, your relationships are falling apart, you have to go to your superiors for help and say, I'm falling apart. And that's what happened last semester. I fell apart. My whole life was turned upside down, to the point of a big question mark going over my life. And I now know what I should have realized then is I'm a man of many friends. A man of many friends and mentors who are always looking over my shoulder, not just to WSU. In my travels around this country and around the world, I've realized that when I have tribulation, I'm never going to be alone. And even this little monologue, even this little recount of last semester isn't in the greatest detail, because it is impromptu. I'm taking a note out of the book of public speaking here and giving a vlog speech in the impromptu format. Even this is perhaps a little incoherent. It's 7:45 in the morning. I haven't had any coffee. I don't know necessarily what's going to come next with this little fountain of information here. But I do know that I'm thinking about teaching very much, and that it's my responsibility, not just for a paycheck, but for my calling in life, to transfer my abilities as a writer, as a student, as a reader, as a person who's experienced the various philosophies of the world. It's my responsibility to transmit those to my students, as I tried to and succeeded in some sense last semester. And why I succeeded last semester was that ultimately my students were not left out to dry, because I had friends in the English department who took over my teaching responsibilities after I was almost let go as a teacher. I had 2 members of the English faculty and linguists who relieved me of my duties and made sure my students didn't go without. And during that time, I was able to not lose contact with my students. I saw them around campus. I asked them questions. I made sure they were doing okay in their classes, even though I technically was on a little bit of a sabbatical from losing my mind and not being able to teach. And it was fun. I made sure that they didn't lose grip with their education. Some of them might not have passed with flying colors. The two classes that I taught, Comp 1 and English 011, but some of them succeeded wildly, and I take pride in that, because I looked over their shoulders when they didn't know I was doing it. And if there's anything that I can have an ego about, if there's anything that I can take a supreme pride in, it was that I was able to help at least a couple of my students last semester, the way some of my best teachers and mentors helped me in my formative education years. And I plan to keep doing that moving forward. Thank you for listening to this, Darren, and I very much look forward to being part of the English department in the spring of 2023. Thank you.